It's 6:06.
Okay. All right.
And first on our order of business is, well, actually, we can skip the review of the minutes because we don't have enough members here to approve them. So we can skip over number 2 and move to number 3, which is a review of the Monmouth TIF amendment.
Right. And you will see, so that's actually facade grant application. I did not give you the entire Monmouth TIF amendment at this point. What I did give you was, if you have here, this is what I think, and maybe Ken, I didn't get one to you, sorry. Did you get one, Doug? A couple pages. So basically, there's extra people that stuff. So basically, the TIF amendment is drafted except for the status column on this list, which I'll get to. I need to get some numbers from Justin about what TIF revenues have been spent on so far in the life of the TIF. I did not print out the entire TIF amendment, although the committee should kind of review it at some point, but it's a standardized form where you kind of pick yes and no. It's a drop down menu. It's kind of technical. I didn't really think it would be useful. What's useful for us to review is to look at the survey responses and what the town is presenting as what it can spend its TIF revenues on. And then, just start thinking about maybe from the select board's perspective, as they're coming into budgeting, are there items on here that haven't been utilized before that the town might want to start thinking about spending money on, or kind of igniting that category, for lack of a better word? Or are they content in just letting it collect revenues at this point and keep going the way it is? So I guess I'll start by saying that the municipal TIF projects, all of the ones that are on here that are not shaded, so that would be 1 through 4, 6 through 12, and the last 2 that are crossed out are projects that are already approved by DECD for Monmouth to spend money on. So this is already in your current TIF district. These are the categories that have been approved, and the cost, an annual allocation for each of these projects. The expenditures that we are proposing based on the survey that we did are number 5, number 13, and number 14. And again, if we look at the survey responses, it was recreational trail creation and maintenance, which shows up as number 14. Certain environmental protection projects specific to lake, that's coming under 13. And we'll have to get a little creative with that to kind of make it fit around what I think the intent was, which was maybe to offset costs of treating the lake.
Yep.
It was one item. But we can talk about that a little bit. Business facade improvement in the downtown area, that's already a project that is approved in your TIF district. So that's just going to continue. Public water extension to North Monmouth. Again, there is a group that's studying the feasibility of that. We decided to do an amendment and just leave that out for now. If it becomes something that is able to be funded with the TIF district, then we can always do another amendment, but we really wanted to try and capitalize on what the public felt we should be spending TIF revenues on now. And then a portion of costs associated with fire equipment for the fire department, that's number 5, I believe. And again, cost of public safety improvements related to the establishment of the district. If that CMP substation were ever to have an issue and the fire department needed to respond, or any of the land in the TIF district, with more development, the fire department certainly needs to be funded appropriately. So you can see those in there now.
We, under what category would the economic development portion of the town manager's time be allocated?
Number 2.
Okay.
Administration of the development program and administration costs associated with time spent by municipal employees in connection with the implementation. And that would be Justin's time.
Okay.
So,
and so that's something that's already allowed. We just need to apply it
correct.
in this, and we could do that without any changes in this budget.
I'm relatively certain. I don't think I changed that back, but let me double check on that. I'm pretty sure that that was already in there, which would make sense because that's kind of one that everyone, you always put it in there because it's just because you can. However, there were a couple in here that were interesting to me. No one's joined us. Has anyone ever looked into, I think there was a grant program for college-bound students, costs for improving quality childcare. There were just some interesting pieces in here that obviously haven't been implemented, but I wanted just to continue to make you aware of in case there were ever interest in creating programs around some of these items that you have the ability to spend money on.
Okay.
Let's see here. Skill development is number 11. Training funds, cost of service to provide skill development, training, and college scholarships for residents of the municipality. College scholarships will be limited to residents who attend in-state colleges. Thought that was interesting. Again, Monmouth doesn't have a child care program, but I do know that in some other municipalities, it is completely self-supporting. And then with the help of TIF funds in terms of training, certification, if that's something that ever, I mean, I'm sure it's a need everywhere, but if the town ever were wanting to take that on, that is something that you have a pool of money to put towards. You don't have to, but you are able to do it under this plan.
Okay. Good to know.
And then again, just so we're all clear, the business park infrastructure is going to be removed from allowable expenditures in the TIF district. And then to the 2 items around the Monmouth business park, administration and advertising, expert consultation, et cetera.
Okay, so then we simply need to revise. We need to propose to the voters some language, actually propose to the select board to put on the ballot some language that covers areas 5, 13, and 14 in terms of revisions or additions, and then the subtraction, of course, of the business park attributes.
That will be part of the outline. The other part is that this TIF district is being extended 10 years.
Correct.
So those are the 2 big items that are being changed in this district. They're not swapping out land. We're not doing anything like that. We're just making it so that the town can maybe more easily spend money in areas that they'd want to spend money on. Another, and I will also talk with Justin about this, but costs associated with newer existing recreational trails. I don't have a good sense of what the town might be interested or willing to spend on something like that, the scope. So from this group, it might be good to have some sort of a recommendation about what the upper limit would be in terms of maintaining trails or creating new trails.
Mhm.
So currently that's just in there as a one-time amount of money, not
That is a
renewal.
placeholder.
Okay.
And my other question to the group is, and I'll have to ask DECD how amenable they are to this idea, but I find these annual allocations to be really hard because you just don't know what the upper limit of funding is in that category. So for example, another way you could do this is say, we as a town are willing to spend $500,000 on sod improvement programs over 30 years of a TIF district. So then, instead of looking at this annual number, it gives you a better sense of how much money you have to spend total in the whole program, instead of trying to sum up where you are in the program to be allowed to spend those funds. So if you're 10 years into the program, do you only have $150,000 to spend? Are you 20 years in? If the committee likes it this way, that's totally fine. And some municipalities may like to kind of keep track of it. We don't want to spend any more than $10,000 a year on X, Y, and Z. But if you would like me to look into that option, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay.
I will inquire, and then you can let me know how you think the town will best receive it. How's that?
Yeah, I think an annual basis, my personal opinion is an annual basis is going to be a lot more palatable than a 30-year when you get into it. And I'm assuming this $500,000 figure here is not an annual figure.
Correct. Yeah, that's how my
further recorded.
Yes.
Imagining the reaction.
Not a annual figure.
Yes.
And
a lot of money.
Putting.
I mean, the Conservation Commission would be very happy when I.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. Yeah, especially when you multiply it times 20 or 30, whatever, you know, if you're going with the remaining number of years in the TIF, then I think people would, you know, their eyes would bulge out of their heads when they're looking at a 20x figure.
Well, I'll tell you though, where it does come in handy is if you are 10 years into this district and you haven't spent much TIF revenue in any category, and this is actually the amount that the trails will cost, say it's $500,000. You might have $500,000 in your TIF program, but if it's only year 10 and you're allocating $10,000 a year to trails, then you only have $100,000 to spend at that point. You see what I'm saying? So you might be jamming up projects that cost more earlier than others. So that's another piece to consider, I guess I would say.
I guess I would just say it kind of all feel like it should all be in the same. It should all either be annual or all not be annual. Because right now it seems like somebody got on here and really wants some trails in this town.
That was me.
Yeah, sounds great. I like it, but yeah, it's.
You know, the other possibility, and this is just me sort of thinking about how we would achieve success with voter approval. The other possibility is to look at our trail system, and this is an idea that's come up before, to look at our trail system as a tax incentive system. So if someone gets a property tax break for permanently allowing a trail on on their property. Right, so it's deeded, it's a, it's a, what do they call those things? Something development, conservation development easement on their property. And as a result, there's a certain amount of forgiveness for whatever the value, the reduced value of their property now is. Whether that's a percentage of the total or what have you. But that, whatever that deduction or incentive is or could be accounted for with the TIF, with TIF funding. And the nice thing about that is you can spread it across time, right? So this is not a lump sum thing. This is a simple, you get a $3,000 credit every year for, 2 miles of trails for the next 20 years. And after that, it's in the deed, right? So then it's an ongoing thing. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's a good idea.
But in terms of the total cost of trails and what the scope would look like, I mean, as a member of the Conservation Commission, I have no idea.
Right.
I mean, in our last meeting last week, like we're finally actually going to be hopefully getting a hold of the Snowmobile Club and trying to see if there's opportunity there to work with them to take some of the agreements that they have with landowners already and see if we can turn it into a year-round permission. So it just seemed like the most logical place to start. We're trying to create some sort of corridor in some part of the town.
Sure.
But I have no idea, how that will go.
Well, and the other advantage of thinking long-term about this is that when I'm not a big fan of doing anything, like a snake swallowing an elephant in one big chunk, but instead breaking it down into tiny little bits.
Yeah,
and then you can get into using Boy Scouts for looking for, an Eagle Scout project, or you can use the Conservation Corps, which is funded primarily through, federal grants.
Right.
And you don't need to feel like you're looking at 6 figures and, 5 figures, maybe very low 5 figures on an annual basis over the next 20 years. Maybe that's reasonable.
Right.
Especially when people are feeling like they're getting their tax dollars matched by other sources of contribution.
Yeah, a lot of it, I presume would go towards things like bridges.
Yeah, or materials, like material costs.
It's a big expense. I don't think anybody's proposing putting a paved bike path for any part of town. Right.
Okay, what do we need to, what do you need from us, Reagan, to bring us a rough draft of the revision that we could forward to the select board?
Nothing. Just that we've reviewed this. I'll bring the rest of the application next meeting and we can vote to move that forward, and then that will be is it 60 days, 90 days before the June ballot. And I guess another question would be when you want to have the public hearing, but we can kind of talk about that at the next committee meeting in terms of, you'll have to do it sometime before the vote. If you want to have it at a select board meeting closer to the.
Well, we typically have a public hearing for all the items on a warrant.
Oh, good. Okay.
So that's kind of a requirement that there's a process of a public hearing to, air out each warrant item.
Oh, good.
And that could, I'm sure, suffice for what the DEC people need in order to.
And is that usually well attended, or?
It depends how controversial.
Yeah.
I mean, usually there's 1 or 2 items where people have an opinion. In some years, it's like, nah, not really.
Good.
And that would be the time to do the solemn ordinance revisions.
Yep.
Okay, so people would probably show up then for
Maybe.
that. Yeah. Great. Well, then, no, this is well on its way, and
Okay.
I'll get that wrapped up next meeting.
Okay, so next on our agenda is discussion about the Knowles lumber property. I heard you might have had a meeting.
I might have, yes. So Justin and I met with Chase Morrill for Maine Cabin Masters last, I guess it was the week before last, maybe. And they have closed on the property. They own it. And I'm sure people may have noticed that their trucks there, they're starting to clean out, which Chase said has been quite a task, but they love because they're into all the salvaging items. I won't say junk, but items that someone like Knowles Lumber would have left behind that they can utilize and just think it's great. So basically, the long and short of it is I had a couple of phone calls with Chase. He let me know that their filming season ended kind of around the new year. And so now they're able to really, they have a break and are really kind of looking at the property and figuring out exactly what they want to do with it. So Justin and I met with Chase, and as we have discussed kind of with different members of this committee, I presented to him that we are looking forward to working with him in terms of the town, and if there are resources that we can provide, we would be happy to do that. We definitely want them in Monmouth, and we do have some tools that might be helpful for them. At this point, they are definite that they are bringing their office and their offices and their storage facility, which they don't have right now, to Knowles Lumber. What else they do in the short and long term, they are not certain. A couple of things I think we all know. I think he was pleased. I don't know that they got a reception when they came to Manchester, and then, things got a little contentious around their spot where they have their food and kind of entertainment area. So he, I think, kind of felt like this was a breath of fresh air, that the town is meeting with them and is offering them these resources and tools. I did say that we would love to have another restaurant in the area, and we have plenty of space in his new location. And if he were interested in that, we also have tools like TIFs that might help to defray the costs of moving that type of business to Monmouth. I think that was interesting to him. Not really, I don't think they purchased the property with the idea of moving that part of it to Monmouth, but we've planted the seed. So now as they're kind of planting and dreaming, they can take that into account, that the town is willing to work with them to bring more of their operation to town. They also, again, are thinking there's all kinds of things. They may be interested in opening he mentioned, a custom furniture store, because I guess they make pieces, that they have this showroom in Manchester that sells a lot of items. They might be interested in moving that store to Monmouth. They talked about kind of the lack of a lumber or a hardware store in Monmouth now that Knowles Lumber is gone, and might they, for their own purposes and for others, be some sort of a location where people could still buy, contractors could still buy items from that site. So, they're really thinking about a lot of different possibilities besides just the storage and the offices.
I thought Ware Butler had made a condition that it couldn't be used again for a year or something.
Oh, it may be for a year. It may be, but I think they're thinking, again, this isn't an immediate plan. It's kind of a longer term. What could this become? We have a lot of land here and there's a lot of opportunity.
Ware Butler was what they their conditions that they proposed would not apply now that they've sold the.
It very well could apply for a year or some period of time, but I guess the point is they're looking beyond the year and kind of a short, mid, and long-term plan for that site, I guess I would say.
That's good.
So I think it was positive. And so one other piece that I talked to Justin about that I don't know if this group wants to consider is the idea of that little area, which has TJ's, Wilson's, Polkey, and now this site. If there's some sort of an opportunity there to create some sort of little corridor district or business area out there because of that kind of cluster of businesses that are there. The concern I have as we are talking to them about opportunities is if right now the property value is at its lowest, which we know for a TIF district, that's the most advantageous. That's where you would want to freeze it at. If they wait 2 or 3 years and say, oh, we want to bring X, Y, and Z here, the value will have increased, I'm guessing, because they're going to be doing facade improvements. They're going to be cleaning up the parking lot. They're going to be doing all kinds of things. The question I raised with Justin is whether the town would be interested in doing a TIF district on that property. So just to freeze the value so that if there was an opportunity to incentivize them, the town could do it with the maximum amount of taxes that they could. And as we recall, a town can create a TIF around any property and give the owner no incentive, for example.
Right, it's just
nothing. What's more,
it's a reserving of the possibility.
right. And the other thing is, even the town, if we feel like we have our hands full with all the TIF money we have, at the time, we can only capture when you create a TIF district, you can capture all of the new value in the district, or you can capture 25% of the new value, very small amount. So that way, all of the new value would be going into the general fund pretty much until the town decided to capture it and give it back to them with their new taxes. I'm sorry, I'm talking a little technically, but it's just thinking about keeping the money going into the general fund until we would need it for a credit enhancement agreement if it was something that would incentivize them to bring more business to Monmouth.
So we're talking about a new TIF district, potentially creating a new TIF district that would apply to either just that property or maybe that neighborhood.
Right.
If we were to go down that path and consider it, are there any size? Does the size of that TIF district affect other TIF the other TIF district in town? Because
the other TIF district is at its maximum 2%. You cannot grow that particular TIF district any bigger. The town can put up to 5% of its land into TIF districts.
All right, so we're not encumbered by
right
restriction.
Right.
And what would the downside be? I mean, we'd have some costs in terms of
you'd have
hiring somebody to set it up and all that other.
Just perhaps lack of understanding by the people voting on it, and helping them to understand that we're reserving this, or it might, while you're saying that, it might make more sense to kind of do multiple businesses in one district so that so people don't think that we're playing favorites or, you know, highlighting them for whatever reason.
I tend to agree that with your observation that particular neighborhood in town is currently underutilized, given the traffic count on 202, that we're, you know, in terms of economic potential, there's a lot there. I mean, right now, and for the long time, I mean, since I was a kid, that was just sort of where you get to Winthrop to spend your money, right? Oh yeah, and there's Knowles. And you know, for a long time since I was a kid, that was sort of how people thought about Manchester, and look what Manchester's turned into, right? That whole intersection in the Manchester area, busy place, and generates a lot of value for the town, just simply because the traffic, right? I mean, a lot of cars that pass through that intersection at Manchester that a good portion of continues on its merry way and down into Monmouth. So I don't know. What would be your take on it, Mr. Chair?
I like the idea of there's a lot of businesses right there, you know.
It's weird. So it's just like a little cluster of 4 or 5 businesses right there.
And I think there's there's one there that's not even really going yet. It has been a business off and on, an auto repair.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it jeans or is that it?
So it might even be, we might even go all the way to the town line.
Right.
Oh yeah,
You come to the intersection in North Monmouth.
Okay, so it's a little inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. It's outside of the area that the town said that they wanted to focus on for development. I mean, that's one play the
Observation.
other side, you know.
I know that, and I'm sure there would be some businesses downtown that would be like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even not that far up the road from there is a new Dollar General, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, are they gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, we're a business that's however many feet down the road from trying to, just gotta pull it up on my phone, it's like, look at the map, it's like,
Yeah, it's top of the hill. Yeah.
It's like hard to remember, but you know, it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? And yeah, how do you, you know, how does it not just appear that we're playing favoritism with?
Right. No, and I guess to be fair though, the town can put any business in a TIF district and grant them no value of it.
Yeah.
So even if, you know, Dollar General wouldn't necessarily benefit if the town had something to spend TIF revenue on, and they had put that in a TIF district before Dollar General had built the store, then they could have captured all that new value, but they didn't, which is okay. I mean, there's a good amount of money here, but in terms of incentivizing development, it's hard. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of championing downtown, but there are some businesses that will locate out there that will never locate downtown Monmouth. Like they just won't. So, right, exactly. Well, not the traffic and just not even, you know, Wilson's Sporting Goods or, you know, I mean, just there's a lot of businesses that belong on this kind of main drag where the high traffic count is. So to just, I think it's a little maybe short-sighted to not do something because we're trying to promote the downtown only. I mean, there's different areas where different types of businesses go. But that said, I don't know, I asked Justin kind of where the comp plan was because for our next topic, the facade, I was trying to get the growth area. And I guess I'll ask you.
Comp plan is stalled
Yeah.
indefinitely. until KV Cog or a consultant is able to assist us. So, but in the drafts that we had prepared over the 3 years that we have slowly been working on it, the growth area I do not think was modified, and the only modification I think that we even discussed was potentially including more of Academy Road. Right.
I did get the paragraph and I tried to map it up with a map.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like it's much different than the downtown. What was designated as the downtown in the downtown plan.
Well, I thought that it's still maintained. I thought the growth area in the 2007 plan ran from roughly right before Clemeteau Farm the whole way up to 202. So it's confusing because maybe you saw a map briefly. There was someone who was working with the comp plan who kind of came up with their own maps that showed multiple downtown areas in town. And that sounds like maybe what you saw, which was like very small downtown. So, but I'm pretty sure the growth area is from Main Street, basically.
I didn't bring enough copies of this, but I'll just show you. This is what was maybe in your, this was the downtown revitalization plan.
Yeah.
Has everyone seen this one?
Yeah.
So I was trying to map what I read because we couldn't find maps in the version that Justin had of the comp plan. We couldn't find a map that showed what the growth area was. But basically what it defined was Maple Street, the intersection of Maple and Main Street, all the way down to the town office. It included 135 to Gray Mills Road. And then it said Blue Road and Academy Road, but it didn't say how far up in this paragraph that I took out of the comp plan draft. That's what it said the growth area was.
I'll go back and look. It's been such a long time now. I mean, this is like, it started 4 years ago now. So, but my memory was that we weren't modifying the growth area, and my memory from the 2007 plan, I really thought the growth area was from Main Street down near Clemeteau Farm the whole way up to 202. Pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah. The reason that becomes important was because I think when we talked about the final draft of the downtown facade improvement grant, we wanted to map the growth area with the growth area of the comp plan.
Yeah.
We want to keep it consistent.
Yeah. Right.
So, and not that you can't approve other businesses around town. The select board can choose to approve other businesses that want to apply for the facade grant, but it does keep the downtown facade grant in that growth area. That's how we want to do it. So
what do you think of the prospect of thinking more broadly?
With the TIF district?
Or a second TIF district that doesn't necessarily intersect the growth area of the comp plan?
I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, they're long, that has been a commercial area for a long time. It's not as though we're identifying a new area completely outside the growth area in the comp plan and saying, okay, let's not inflate, but like, this is where we're going to incentivize development in this wooded area over here, come clear it. Like, no, we're identifying existing businesses. Existing business locations. So, I mean, I think that makes sense.
You go as far up the hill as like Freddie Hall's on 202.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I gotta pull up a map. This is like
Then of course there's a trailer repair business, RV
On the corner.
and Nellie's used cars is there. Then there's the garage that used to be, I don't know who it is now. Right on the corner.
Are we including
That empty field on the opposite side?
Right, that's for sale, has been for.
Are we including the concrete plant? It's right across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Knowles. Or cabin masters now. Yeah,
I don't have a good answer.
So the good news about this, again, when I say, do we want to do this to kind of freeze the value? Come this April 1st, I'm thinking and hoping that there won't have been significant value added to that property at this point. They bought it. They're not going to do all of their renovations. And so we do have some time to kind of talk about if this is something the town wants to do.
Did they pull a permit?
I don't think so.
And that's not value we know about as a town, is it?
Correct, right. And yes, and I mean, and I know
It's
that,
ridiculous.
I know that they're truly cleaning out buildings. So
Yeah.
to the extent that, you know, there's no big development going on over there. So again, I guess the point is, it would be good to maybe sit down with a map, look at what are the areas that you may want to incentivize growth around in that kind of, you know, just like I think Manchester is a great example. It's kind of a condensed development. It looks like a center of something, you know, something's there, right? When you try,
That
you
didn't used to
know,
be.
that did used to be, and you know, the kind of savings bank little outlet and
I
X, Y,
remember
and Z.
back in the 80s, that was a gas station. What's the Irish gas station? Something or others?
Daggett's.
What's that?
It used to be Daggett's. And
Oh, yeah, before that, yeah, before Daggett's.
I can't
Yeah.
remember.
for Daggett's.
Yeah, before the new giant mobile station. What was the name of that? Yeah, it was like 3-4 businesses in that intersection. And that was pretty much it. Right? And then you had like 2 or 3 gas
Bakery
stations.
there,
Yeah.
Peterson's Bakery.
Yeah. Then you get Fielder's Choice, then you add in
You get
Kind of
Cop-
savings bank,
Kennebec Savings,
Another-
copies, etc.
the
Coyote.
gas stations.
Now they've got the self-storage facility going in there. Yeah, I mean, it's,
Monmouth growth area.
Are you looking at the comp plan draft on your phone?
Oh, you bet I am.
How's that going?
Oh, I found it. Yep. Yeah, basically it's the water district. That's what it is. Yeah, the growth area goes in the 2007 plan.
corresponds with the utilities.
Yeah, the 2007 plan goes the whole way up into North Monmouth. Here. See this on my tiny phone?
I have that. I have the,
Oh, well, that includes 202.
It does. Yeah, actually, it's in the growth area. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, all the way to the town line.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Nope.
I have
It's
it
there.
on old
Oh, great.
CD.
Yeah.
So then a new proposed TIF would actually fall within the original comp plan growth area.
Because I am 99% sure that we were not going to modify that area except
that's great.
potentially expand it on Academy Road.
Yeah,
So
that
this
makes
would.
sense.
So really what we're talking about, I mean, if you think about this TIF, the TIF we're revising, right, is only a portion of that growth plan. And maybe we're talking about a second TIF district that actually fills in another portion.
Right. Yep. Now that I've seen a map, it makes so much more sense.
Of course. Completely logical.
Well, I mean, it does. It's like though it's saying, it goes along with the plan that the voters already approved, and so no, it does. It's not. Feels less, arbitrary. All right.
That sounds like an easier sell.
Yeah.
And if you look at, I don't know, you look at the reality of our present day situation in terms of the health of businesses around town. In 2011 or 12, when we put this first TIF district in, downtown was in shambles, and it's come back quite a lot. The businesses out in that neighborhood in 202, not so much.
Still not a lot of business in downtown, but yeah.
But the purpose of this first TIF that we did here in Monmouth was to combat some blight and what's the official phrase? Refurbish or rejuvenate?
Yes, redevelop.
The downtown area. And I'd say it's come back quite a lot from the days when we had, 5 or 6 buildings that looked like they were about ready to cave in.
That was before my time in town, so I'm unaware of what it looked like back then, but I believe you. So,
All right, well, so then that's on the
Okay.
table for a future discussion, and maybe next meeting I'll along with the TIF amendment, we can talk about maybe some land for a second TIF district, not to be rushed through, but just a thoughtful discussion.
Well, if we're trying to capitalize on the value as of April 1, then we would have, and we would need voter approval to approve a TIF district. Then we would have 2 opportunities to do that this year. We would have the town meeting in June, and then we'd have the November election.
Right, and my thought is, if the value were frozen as of April 1st, 2023.
Yep.
That would still be at the low. And we can utilize that April 1st, 2023 all the way through next year. If we put in a TIF application anytime in 2023 or early 2024,
Yeah.
we can still use that frozen value from this coming April. So we have time to maybe spread them out, put one on the November ballot, do some education, say this is part of our comp plan. We're looking to,
Help.
highlight this area. Yeah. So things like that. Marketing.
Okay.
Okay.
Next up is, anything else on the discussion of Knowles Lumber? Thank you for meeting with him, and spending the time doing that.
You didn't want to say how you knew that.
Oh, that I went to high school with all of them? No, they just enjoyed my charm and my conversation that got them there. They're a good group. They're a good group.
All right, next up, update on Monmouth Business Directory.
And that's Dennis's category. I don't think there's much of an update.
Okay.
He didn't give me one. So we'll just.
Why don't we come back to that? I do think when we get to other business, we should talk about Dennis's topic on marijuana. Then the schedule for 2023.
Right, so I was going to basically just propose that we do the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And perhaps take July or August, whatever, maybe July and August off.
Yeah.
And just kind of move through that way. I'll send out the actual dates, but just confirming that still works for everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
And then without July or August. Okay. And then other business. And Dennis has brought up a good topic that I think warrants some discussion, and we can have more of it later when he's here. But one thought that I had about Dennis's questions about whether we want to ask the town to consider allowing certain recreational marijuana businesses. One thought that I have is that before we go the route of asking the town about it, maybe we should have a survey done. Like at the next election, put it on a survey, ask them what their thoughts are. Do you want to allow, this type of marijuana business, that type of marijuana business, that type of marijuana business? We can come up with sort of a checklist, and then we're doing our due diligence, because if it's a heavy lift, I don't want to be the guy that suggested it at the select board.
No.
But if it's based on, people are like, yeah, whatever. I mean, how many alcohol licensees do we have in town? We've got one serving. We've got a restaurant that serves alcohol, but then we've got a number of retail establishments that sell it.
In South Monmouth.
Well, South Monmouth, Monmouth General, Quick Shop, they sell beer and wine, they sell spirits.
TJ's.
TJ serves it. So, I mean, the reality is,
Probably
the,
the cabin master.
They can, yeah.
maybe, hopefully. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's my personal belief, not having a horse in the race, because I don't drink and I don't smoke. It seems to me the logical thing is we ought to be treating both the same in terms of what we allow or don't allow. And we've been pretty, in the grand scheme of things over the last 20, 30 years, ever since we get away with being a dry town, we've been pretty permissive with regard to alcohol, spirited beverages. So my question would be, why are we encouraging people to drink spirited beverages as opposed to making their own adult decisions and going elsewhere to purchase marijuana products?
If the town just had a public hearing about marijuana in town, would people show up?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering, because the surveys, I think the surveys are good, and I mean, they're good, but they're also allow people to make a decision without any information. Do you want marijuana in town? No. Well, do you know that you can have a licensing, fee up to, I mean, some towns have $10,000 for a license. I mean, do you know the pros and cons, or do you just on its face say nope or yep, or that's why I just, that's the danger of a survey. It's just kind of weighing in without any information, or to ask questions or to form an opinion. So that was my whether or not you have public hearings ever.
I mean, I feel like we would get a snapshot anyway, though, where people are at with it.
Yep.
Before going into it.
And you can provide them with information that, one of the possibilities, if they do this or that, like this.
I just feel like it's so hard to get people engaged generally,
Oh, they'll be engaged on that one.
Yeah, you think there'll be a lot of
what? We'll get pretty.
You think both sides or just the opposition, or?
Might actually do both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might actually be.
Yeah.
A topic that people feel strongly about, and we could. We could invite some expert people to come and talk about this, that, and the other thing. I mean, I would say we can invite the police chief to tell us about impaired driving, which is a big issue with marijuana.
Yeah,
big issue. And we could invite some folks from maybe even some existing business owners in Monmouth who want to talk about, they're already here. They're just quietly doing their medical cultivation stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they prefer to be under the radar.
I think it might be.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, survey is certainly a good litmus test, and then proceeding and figuring out if you want to have a public conversation or not. But we can certainly tell Dennis. We can certainly put on the agenda for next meeting if.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing. A survey's easy too, right? I mean, it's just hey, put this form over here, offer it to the voters when they come through to cast their ballot. If they don't want to participate, they don't have to. And if they feel strongly about it, they can. And voice it, and then we've got the data to say, people are ambivalent or people care one way or another.
The Survey Monkey is.
Last time when we did the TIF survey, we had physical pieces of paper at the election at the polling site, but we also put it on the Facebook page if people didn't vote and wanted to weigh in. And we did get a good number on the online portion as well.
Yeah, for both.
Yep.
I think that would be good, especially in the off-cycle, June
Yeah,
election.
it's gonna be a low attendance.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be
due to a certain
700 voters.
Yeah.
And, I think we can do a little bit of education with how we create the survey in that there's a big difference between having a retail establishment and having a cultivation establishment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that the idea of having potentially a retail shop on Main Street is going to stir different emotions than Joe Schmo doing what they're already doing in their garage.
Right.
So,
or doing what's already being done in various barns in Monmouth.
oh yeah. Everybody kind of assumes that we do it, got all that barn there. What do you mean you're not?
It's all cows.
No, it's all cows,
But I mean,
maybe I'm just bitter because I just don't make any money.
Yeah, that's it. You haven't caved into $18.
That's right.
Yeah, me too. People are like, oh, you're gonna do marijuana on the island? I'm like,
Marijuana Island.
Wow.
Sounds like a terrible video.
Exotic stuff.
Oh, boy.
Of course, I don't search my guests when they show up, but.
Yeah, right.
The other way to create a survey is to ask people about, where's your, to try to figure out where's your limit. I mean, at one point, there was a conversation about saying, maybe we could do some sort of retail presence on 202 where they're not within 500 feet of a home.
Yeah.
I remember that idea being floated, right? Again, tapping into that traffic count that flows back and forth on 202. And I, there were some people who were like, yeah, okay, that would be reasonable. No one's, we're not injuring anybody by having to, entice innocent youngsters with marijuana products that they have to look at every day. It's out on 202. It's a way you don't think about it, and maybe it earns some tax revenue.
They're already getting enticed by flavored tobacco products at all the
story there.
Yeah,
All right, what else we got?
That was it. Unless there's any other business. The other business.
Well, then I say we can't even make a motion to adjourn because we don't have a quorum, but thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for putting this together.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we will see you on the third Tuesday of February.
Yes, which let's just say that date out loud.
Vacation.
Is it vacation week?
School vacation.
No.
I'm not sure.
That might be the week after that.
No, I think actually Doug's right. It
you're
is vacation week.
February 21st
Yeah, which doesn't mean anything to me, but if
at 6 p.m.
Yes.
I'm the only person in the group that has kids anyway, so
No, Allie does, but I haven't seen her. I do, but my kids will be with their father.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, okay.
No, I will be by tomorrow night.
What are you guys doing tomorrow night? More solar stuff? The select board?
No. What are we talking about tomorrow?
But we're getting rid of some property, maybe.
Yeah, we get some property issues that we might dispose of.
We're closing,
Putting them up for sale.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I do have one more quick item. This is horrible. Is it okay if we just talk about this for 1 second?
Sure.
Okay. As I was finishing this facade improvement grant, I've been working on other facade grants in other communities. I wanted to suggest whether or not the committee wants to consider match a business owner or a business owner would need to match up to $12,500 on one of these facade grants. So they could, the total project that the town would match would be 12,500 from the town and 12,500 from the business. I've run into an issue in another municipality where the committee did not explicitly say that the match could be products. So we had a developer in another municipality that was doing a facade grant. He could get materials cheaper than the person he was hiring to do the work. He didn't want to pay the markup. So he asked if he could buy the materials as his match. So I had to go through this whole process because it was not explicitly stated in their facade improvement program that a match could include product.
Product or in kind. It's not even in kind, it's material cost.
And what the committee came up with was that it could be used as long as it could be used as match as long as it was something that the business owner was purchasing for this project. So it wasn't something that this other builder had laying in the back of his shed that he's then, put a value on and said, here, use this siding. It's going to be $3,000. It was something that he could produce a receipt for, but he just happened to be able to get a better deal on it because he was a developer. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I anticipate the same thing if the cabin masters use this program, for example, as someone who could probably get product cheaper from their suppliers instead of putting it into the cost of a grant and having a markup, could they use that as their match?
I think that would be fine. I don't see why we should stand in the way of someone being able to do that.
I don't either, but it was.
What do we need to do to make that a reality in our policy?
It would just be something that I would add to this draft, and when the select board looked at it, would be one of the items that we say, this is what we've updated in the program.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I got that okay.
So currently, the match can only be something that's like you're buying from someone and it's invoiced, or
Right now, the match would be, I'm bidding out this project to a builder or whomever.
Yeah.
The builder comes back with a price tag of $25,000.
Yeah.
And the business owner would pay all of that, but get reimbursed half the cash from the town. So
instead, what we're suggesting is the builder could contribute $12,500 worth of, actually, the builder could submit receipts that show a purchase of $12,500 worth of materials.
And leave that out of the bid process.
Leave that out of the bid process, and the match would still cover the remaining amount of the project.
Right.
But the builder's labor can't cover any part of the match?
When he's saying builder,
I'm sorry, the property owner.
the property owner, he's talking about the property owner. The property owner could buy the material and say, I just want a quote for labor.
Yeah, but the property owner's labor can't count towards the
Correct,
match. Okay.
right, and that's the other thing. So if a business were to utilize this and they were a builder, hypothetically, like we have, I have never seen a scenario where a builder can use this project to pay themselves. It's kind of a conflict of interest.
But cabin masters would be like, how was that?
So the cabin masters wouldn't be able to bid on their own facade project.
Yeah, well, that's reasonable.
Yeah. So they would have to find someone else to do $12,500 worth of work.
Right.
And then theoretically contribute $12,500 worth of supplies, if that's how they wanted to do the match. And that's what made me think of it.
Yep.
So just making sure it's all ironed out beforehand. And yeah, they would have to, unfortunately, they will have to find someone else to do that work if they want to utilize the facade grant. But it's such a conflict to just looking at it from anyone else's perspective.
Yeah, it would
They're
not-
paying
it would-
themselves to do the
Yeah.
facade project on their building, which they're going to gain value from.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I mean, there are a lot of grants in my world anyway, though, where like labor, in-kind labor totally counts as a match on grants.
Yeah.
But I guess I see the side grant. Agriculture.
So.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that was ironed out before.
You need to bring this back to the select board for any approval.
Yes.
All right,
Well-
is that coming up soon?
Now that we have a growth area that makes sense, yes, I'm sure it will be there. Potentially at your next meeting, whatever Justin has for an agenda.
Andy, could you forward that
Yeah.
map you showed us on your phone?
Well, I mean, I can take a screenshot of it, but
Yes.
I can just send the entire
Yeah.
comprehensive plan from 2007. You can scroll through. I'll tell you what page.
Give you the